Welcome to the Personal Brand Era podcast. I'm your host, Ella Ray, and I'm excited to talk to Sally Green today. She is an inspirational speaker and a multi-times international best-selling author. She is the Vice President of Author Development at Action Takers Publishing, which I find enormously interesting. She works with writers to help them develop their stories, write their books, and become best-selling authors. Hey, Sally, how are you?
Good, great to be here.
How did you get into this specific niche?
Yeah, well, it's funny. It all happened during COVID 3 years ago. My husband and I had a small business, and we lost a major client. And I looked in the mirror. I woke up and looked in the mirror, and I was like, I'm a mess. Financially a mess, emotionally a mess, physically a mess. I was 40 pounds heavier than I am now, and I said, if I don't do something different, I'm going to get into a downward spiral. I'm not going to be able to get out. And so I started with the one thing that I knew that I could control, which was my food. And my daughter was living here at the time. And so we went on this journey of, eating healthier, walking regularly. And then I was like, all right, you know what? I need to start feeding my mind. I need to shut the TV off. So I shut the television off and I started reading inspirational books again and going into all this. I love self-help books. So it was like reading self-help books. And I started taking online courses. I got into a community, and I was offered the opportunity to write a chapter in a collaboration book. And I've always loved writing. I have a degree in computer science, but I've always loved writing and stuff. And so I jumped at the chance. And the book was called One Habit for Entrepreneurial Success. And it wound up being, there was 150 other authors in this book. And we would get on these Zoom calls, and I quickly realized that I was totally out of my element, because here there were 150 highly successful business owners and coaches and actors and actresses that were all in this book, and me. It was like, all right, you know what can I do to leverage this? Because I love all these people. We would get on these Zooms, and I was like, these people are great. So I took the book and I went onto Facebook, and I sent every single one of the authors a friend request. And I said, hey, we're in the same book together. What can I help support you on? What do you have going on? And so they would invite me to their masterminds. They were inviting me to go on Zoom calls with them one-on-one and talk with them. And so I got to be friends with a lot of the people that were in this book. And one of the women invited me. She was doing these, she had been doing them in person, but she started doing these Zoom weekly calls. And so she invited me to start attending those. And then I wound up hiring her to help me, because I said, well, maybe I'd like to be a coach. So I hired her to help me build a coaching business. And we worked together for about 8 or 9 months. She was publishing books. And so she invited me to be in the 2 books that she was publishing. So within 1 year, I was in 4 collaboration books. Each one became an international bestseller. And at the end of somewhere along the line, her and I had been working together. She had been helping me with the coaching business. We were talking, and I said, you seem a little stressed. You're putting these 2 books together. Can I help you? And it was just a friend helping a friend. And so I was helping her do some stuff on the website. I'm pretty tech savvy. And so I was doing some website stuff for her. I was helping her with some graphics and doing stuff. I was talking to the other authors for her. And after those books launched, we launched 2 books, 8 days apart. They both became international best-selling books on Amazon. And she reached out to me about 2 weeks later, and she said, I love doing this. I love doing this with you. Do you want to join me and partner, and we'll do it as a business together?
I love
And
that.
so this was about September of 2021. And so I was like, let's go, let's do it. So her and I started doing it. We took about 2 or 3 months figuring out a business plan and figuring out exactly how we were going to run the business, what each of our responsibilities were going to be. And in February of 2022, we launched our first book, was called Wellness for Winners, together. Like I said, she'd been doing the publishing for years before. And since that time, we've launched 14, all of our books, except for the one we just launched a book this weekend. But it's not ranking internationally. I think when it does, we will be an international bestseller. but all of our books so far have become international best-selling books. We kind of specialize in the collaboration books where we come up with a theme and we get, 15, 20 authors or writers to each write a chapter in the book. And then we do all the work in putting the work together. So that's my story. That's how I got started in all this. Like I said, I've always been a writer. I've always had journals and writing stories and stuff for my daughter when she was younger and doing that kind of stuff. But this is probably like about 2 or 3 years into my writing and publishing journey. And right now I've got 14 books, and I got 2 more that are going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks.
First of all, congratulations to such a big success. And when I was researching your website, where it particularly was showcasing all your services, I was like, wow, this is like really amazing. You don't actually have to write a book all by yourself. You can actually look into collaborating with someone who may have a different area of expertise or a slightly different niche than you, and you can serve the audience so much better when you actually collaborate with someone. So I cannot wait to ask you all the other questions that I have lined up here. One of which is also, what do you believe is the most important quality a writer kind of needs to possess in order to become a best-selling author?
Well, the thing is, like with our authors, our passion is to get them to share their story. It's not so much, you don't necessarily have to be a good writer. You just have to have a story inside of you, and everybody has a story to tell. So it's pulling those stories out of them and getting them to tell them in a way that people are going to want to hear them. So getting their stories out, and that's kind of where I come in with the business. Linda is really good with all of the marketing and the organizing of the business, and I'm really good at speaking with people and getting them to share their stories with me and trying to figure out what story they want to tell and how they want to tell it. So I think it comes down to what is your story and how do you want to share it with the world, and do you want to share it with the world?
Yeah, I fully agree with that. You first of all have to have that desire to actually share whatever you have experienced and kind of package it in a way that the audience would actually be able to digest it properly. Because sometimes we experience such complex and maybe even traumatic things that it's very difficult to tell that, depending on what niche you're going for as an author. But that needs to be there first, the clarity about your own story. I think that's one part of it. As you said, we all have a story, right? And each of these stories are so unique and so amazing to actually uncover, yet the author needs to have the clarity about their own story. I was kind of doing that type of work maybe 4 years ago. I started to unpack my own story, my origin story, so to speak, when I became an entrepreneur. And so many different layers and things became obvious to me that were hidden before. I completely forgot them. So is there an exercise or something that you could suggest an author before they actually start writing a book to actually get that kind of clarity?
Yeah, we do a writing course, and we talk about, sitting down and doing a brain dump, a brainstorming session with yourself or with others. You get a friend that wants to write a book too, and just sit down and write, just dump everything onto a piece of paper or on a computer, however you want to do things nowadays. I still old school. I like the pen and the paper, but I know a lot of the kids and younger generation today are the computer people. So go on and then just write out everything that you think, every experience that you want to write about, and then look for similarities, look for things that go together, and how can you make it make sense, and then create an outline from that. And you can put it together and you could do it chronologically, you could do it by topic, you can do it however you think makes sense to you. And it doesn't necessarily need to flow at the beginning, but then having those things that set on paper, now you can look at it and say, hey, you know what, I want to write about this today. I want to write about that today. And so you have now an outline and you have a direction to take your writing.
Yeah, and I think no matter what kind of niche you are going for, as let's say it is a female coach, the majority of the audience of my podcast, maybe this female coach desires to write a book, maybe in the business niche, not particularly a biography, but writing something about her expertise. I think a great tip would be to always have the end in mind before you start writing it all. So what do you want the audience, the reader to experience at the end of the book? What do you want them to feel when they actually read the last word? Right? Do you want them to anticipate to keep reading or to even seek out if you have more books available? Do you want to inspire them? Do you want to motivate, or do you want to educate them? Right? These are kind of the three main things that you could do with a book. And you need to have that type of clarity. How do you want your audience to feel at the end of the book? Right? Because the end of the book, in my mind at least, it is also kind of like a indirect CTA, what they should do next, because the book is just the beginning of a journey, right? For, let's say, a female coach, the beginning of a value ladder, as I teach my clients. A book can really be a great starting point for your audience, that you take them through your business services or your value ladder, as I call it, right? So what are the usual and common struggles that you encounter in the types of writers that you work with?
A lot of times they overwrite. So like we have a word count that they need to abide by, otherwise the books would be out of control. So we'd say, okay, you have 3,000 words to write your story. And so they sit down to write and they have 7,000 words. So now they'll reach out to me and say, what do I do with this? And so I'll hop on a Zoom call with them, and they'll send me their manuscript or their chapter beforehand, and we'll go through and I'll read it and say, do you really, you're talking about, you want your clients to know about, you teach time management, let's say you teach time management. They really don't need to know all about your childhood and what, so maybe we can take this whole chunk out. It's great. And I tell them, keep that, because if we do a book, if you do a book next month or next year, you want to be in another collaboration book, that childhood story might be perfect for that. But for what this book is, the topic of this book, we really don't need that chunk right now. So it's working with them, and they're, saying, oh yeah, okay, let's save that for another book. So it's working with them to chunk down their story and to keep it within the word count. It's kind of and then I've had the opposite. I had one woman call me. She, we gave her, I think it was 1,000 words. It was a small book, and to write her chapter. And she called me up and she said, I got 500 words and I'm done with my story. I don't have anything else I can say. What do I do? So I hopped on a call with her and I'm like, all right, well, I read her story. I said, tell me a little bit more about this part, and she went into a whole different, I'm like, there you go, tell that story. That should be another 500 words. She's like, oh, I didn't even think about that. So it's brainstorming with someone else and getting them to share their stories.
Yeah, that's, I feel, a crucial part of it, the storytelling part that you even mentioned before. And before we go a bit deeper into storytelling, which is so crucial for writing a book at all and keeping the audience actually reading the book and finishing the book, how do you help your clients to find their unique voice and style when they are writing?
A lot of it is most of them already have that. They have their own style. A lot of them are business people who have written before, that are clients are normally coaches, speakers, people who are entrepreneurs. So a lot of them have already written, even if it's just, letters or emails or stuff, they have their own voice. And so, we just tell them, write it and sit down and write it. And, if it's, uh, edit it and figure it out and then just send it to us. And if it's, we don't, if it's, something we have an issue with, we'll reach out to you.
Yeah, sometimes it's really helpful if you don't find your unique voice in the writing, and your writing style kind of is very generic. And that's a crucial point, I feel, in the books, at least the ones that I love reading, is kind of a unique style that I need to feel that this person comes alive in the book, no matter the niche. So if you have not found your unique voice just yet, even if you have written a lot of emails, and I see a lot of my clients also struggle with that, what type of words should I use to actually capture the audience, to actually help them remember me? That's a crucial part that I talk a lot about in my business for a personal brand. People need to remember you. You can write an amazing book from the content perspective, but if you want to build a brand, a personal brand with your coaching business, it's really very important to help your audience remember you better. So you can do different things to actually develop your unique voice by thinking about how you talk, actually, and writing this down, or record yourself talking. And most of the time, people will encounter unique words or unique phrases and how they see things. Most of the time, it's your perspective on things. And not necessarily the unique words or the single words that you're using, of which you can also have unique ways to express things, right? You can express things in a very easy way. You can express something very complex and on a very high level, language level. You can do that, right? If that's your natural way of expressing yourself. You can embellish your writing a lot by using a lot of adjectives, for example, right? Or you can keep it really simple, right? That also depends on what type of goal you have with your book. Once again, right? What do you want them to have at the end? What's the result that you want to achieve with your book at the end? So to build your personal brand even stronger, you need to think about the single words that you choose and the perspective that you add, because every human being has a slightly different perspective on the same thing, right? It's like you have a different view on your Zoom window than I have, even though we're doing the same thing right now. So, and this will be crucial, combined with your experience, with your life experience, with what you've learned, your life lessons and all that, which breeds very much into storytelling, which is so important. How much should you tell, and what is better left out? So how much of that vulnerability would you say is actually necessary to really capture and engage an audience inside of a book?
Yeah, well, everybody is different. Everyone has their own story. For a lot of writers, I feel it's a fear of judgment. So they're afraid if they put that story out there, what are their family and friends going to say about them? You know, they may be writing about something that's, highly personable or personal, or something that tragic that happened to them that maybe some people didn't know about them. And maybe they don't want them to know about it. So, there is a lot of things to think about when you're writing. And so it's having that vulnerability and putting yourself out there. And for each writer, it's a different journey. I found that, writing is very healing.
Oh
It's
yeah.
something about getting your experiences out of you and through you and on through the pen and onto the paper and outside of you, that brings you on a healing journey. So like the book we just launched was Embracing the Impact of Cancer. So all of these people have heard those words, you have cancer. and this is their journey, and how they dealt with it. So we have 14 different people in here who share their journeys, and so it's okay, how much of your story do you want to tell? And for some people, you talked about why tell your story. For some people it may be so that others who go through this have are feel that hope that they can get through it too. For other people, it might be a legacy. It might be, I want my family and my, we had one woman who said, I don't have any children, and so I want the world to know that at one point that I was alive, when I go. So I want to have my story told, and so it depends each person, what they want to use the story for, what they want to use the book for. We have a lot of coaches and speakers who get into these books and they use them as giveaways when they speak, on stages, or ways for people to their clients to read their story and connect with them. So here's my book. I'm chapter 11, read my story before you hire me. And so people get that sense of, oh yeah, I know them, I want to hire them. So it's that, it's that credibility and it's that accountability that you get from being part of a book.
Yeah, absolutely. It is also, it is really not, writing a book is not promoting yourself, right? Of course, that's part of it, but I
Right.
feel anything that you do as a female coach is really part of customer service. So writing a book is actually could be the beginning of a customer journey for your particular clients. So when you share a personal story, people, and that's the only thing people will connect to. It's not your expertise. It's not your knowledge based on the research that I have done so far. It's very shocking, but at the same time, very relieving that people will actually hire you or buy from you because they like you and not because you're smart or because you have so many credentials and stuff. So
Right.
sharing your personal story is so impactful. When I remember listening to speakers or reading books, particularly their personal story that they were brave enough to share, was actually the only things that brought me to my next level, that helped me break through certain ceilings that I felt were there for ages and that I felt I couldn't break through. So sharing your personal story in a very graceful manner, I say, is enormously helpful, is part of customer service. You help them on multiple levels connect with you and remember you, because people don't tend to not remember facts, right? They tend to remember stories the most. So what happened to the hero, so to speak, and you as a writer are the hero of the story. So they will remember you more than someone who is just spitting out facts, right, on YouTube and everywhere, right? So you want to plant that seed very consciously to actually grow your personal brand further, because you are dependent on people remembering you. If no one remembers you, they will not purchase anything from you. And we are so forgetful. We forget so many things during the day, right? Tomorrow, I might not remember 80% of what I did today. So stories kind of connect on an emotional level with humans, and humans act based on emotions, right? Logic is helpful, but we tend to act on emotion. So you need to, and not in a manipulative way or anything, but just in a genuine, authentic way, connect with your audience on an emotional level. And this is only possible if you share your personal story as authentic as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that, I've discovered through just sharing, just that a little snippet of your story, writing a whole book can be daunting. You sit down and you think about, okay, I got to write, 15, 20 chapters of a book. But for us to reach out and say, hey, you know what, we're putting this book together. We have one called Mind Body Connection that we're currently working on. So a lot of people who are, wellness coaches and stuff, are in that book. Well, we're putting this book together. All you have to do is write one chapter. You can tell your story in 3,000 words, put one chapter together, you'll be with 20, 30 other people inside this book, and we do all the work. You don't have to worry about learning how to publish it, learning how to, market it. We do all that work and put it all together. And you learn at being part of the book, you learn the process from watching what we do. And so a lot of our people have started with writing just a chapter and have gone on to writing their book and learning, number one, how to do the marketing, how to plan a launch day, how to get the word out about their books. And they start building their email list when they're, by writing that first chapter, because they can say to their family and friends, hey, I wrote this book, do you know anybody that would want to read it? And having figuring out, having that landing page where people can go and download the book and read their chapter, for them now, that's helping them to build their business. So that's kind of like where we come from. We believe in abundance, and we want all of our authors to thrive in their business, because when they thrive, we're going to thrive. So we give them, after the book is published 2 weeks later, we give them a PDF of the book and say, here, give it away. We show you how to create a landing page and start collecting those emails. And then when you do your own book or you're doing your coaching program, you have people now that you have read your story that now you can reach out to and offer your other services and your other products and stuff to them. So, that's kind of the way, our businesses run. Linda and I have right from the start said, we want, once you're in our circle, we want to help you grow your businesses. And so that's the way we've run our business.
And you have so much experience already, having written so many books that are also international best-selling books. What was one particular book or chapter that you wrote that was the most impactful on your own life?
There's two of them. The one book was called Invisible No More, Invincible No Forevermore. It was the third book that I participated in. And I wrote about being bullied when I was in 7th grade. The story in, feeling invisible, and now, where I am now. And I was really surprised when I sat down to write that chapter, because I had thought that all of that was taken care of. But when I sat down to actually write my story, the emotions that came up, the tears that flowed from things that happened, I'm like, this is 40, 50 years ago, and I'm still feeling those emotions. And when I went to go hit the send button, I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And I called, at the time, Linda was, I wasn't working with her. I was just submitting my chapter. I called her up and said, I'm really afraid to share this. And her and I had a conversation, and I said, all right, so I turned it in. And then the other book is a book. It's the second book that we published together. It's called The Book I Read. And what we did was we took 50 writers and we asked them, what's the one book that you read that changed your life, and how did it change your life? So we wanted their stories about how a book changed their lives. And so being part of that book, having all of those stories. And I wrote about the first book that the One Habit book that I talked about earlier, and how that changed. It wasn't so much the words on the page, but it was being part of that book that changed my entire life and propelled me into this world of publishing. And so, those are the two that are my favorite stories. And it's funny because each time I write a chapter, I just finished one for a book we're launching in July called The Joy of Work. And every time I write a chapter, I'm like, wow, that's the best chapter I ever wrote. And then the next time I'm like, oh, that one's even better than the last one. I like this story too, So it's, I still haven't written my own book, and I'm in the process. I have it all outlined. I have it half written, and I'm in the process of writing it. I'm hoping to have it launch at the end of this year. But I said, now I have 11 of these chapters that I've written, or 12 of these chapters that I've written that I can each pull my stories out of. And every time I write one, I try to write about a different area of my life, so that eventually I'll have my book. I'll just have to cut and paste.
Yeah, the book that you mentioned about being invisible or feeling invisible really got to me internally, because for the longest time in my life, I felt just the same way. Completely invisible, unheard, like nobody's listening to me, nobody really sees me, not even myself. I didn't even want to see myself. That's oftentimes also the thing that I believe many people don't really see. They only notice how other people are not perceiving them the way they want to be perceived. But I think one of the root causes is that you yourself don't want to see yourself, right? Both physically, but also internally. Maybe there are things about yourself that you don't really accept about yourself, or you find hard time accepting about yourself. So that's a whole journey on itself. But I find it so amazing that you were part of this and that you wrote a chapter about it. It propels me to really check out your books and see what you have been writing about. I find that concept of having several authors in one book very compelling, especially for people who are just starting out and feel very unsure about how this whole process works. As you mentioned in the beginning, it can be very daunting to think about writing a whole book. With all the pressures that someone could feel, right? The fear of judgment, having writer's block, maybe not knowing what to write about, having all types of false beliefs even about how this process actually looks like. So it can be a very helpful framework to actually go for in the beginning, to work with you and Linda to have a book written with multiple authors. And maybe we should dive more into the general misconceptions that you meet on a daily basis that people have about writing and about becoming an author or even a best-selling author.
Yeah, well, a lot of people think that they're going to write their story, they're going to write this book, and that publishers are going to be knocking on their door, and they're going to sell millions of copies
Yeah.
of the book, or they're just going to upload their book to Amazon, and people are going to find it there and buy, and they're going to become a famous writer. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Before I got into this, like probably 10, 12 years ago, I wrote a book of poetry. And I was like, all right, I Googled how to upload it onto Amazon. I put it up on Amazon, and I didn't tell anybody that I even put it there. And I was like, I'll put it on Amazon. People will search for it and find it. And it was up there for 3 years, and nobody ever purchased a copy of it, because I never put it out there, and Amazon they don't do anything unless you're selling copies. So it's funny. And then people think that, it's people will pay you for your story. The thing is, with traditional publishers, they will, if your story is compelling and they think that they can make money for it. They're not going to take, especially a first-time writer, and give them a huge contract unless your story is J.K. Rowling's type story, but most of them are not. And so having these little chapters in a book, and then having yourself as a writer for a number of years, or through a series of books, and now being able to write your story and publish it, you're known now as a writer. Especially for a first time, to be able to get these little chapters out and share either part of your story or whatever. Now, when you do go to launch your own book, you have an audience of readers that you've created. Like with me, I've been in 12 of these books, and each book I get more and more people that reach out to me and say, hey, I've read your story, I want to connect with you. So now I've built a community of readers. So when I go to do my book, I have a whole whole group of people that I can reach out to and say, I've written my book, would you support me? So, I mean, and that's the key is the whole marketing that I think a lot of writers miss. They think that they just have to write their story, but there's a whole marketing side of being a writer and being an author that a lot of writers either don't want to do or don't know how to do, or think that it just automatically comes when they write a good story.
That is so true. I feel writing a book is only 20% of the whole thing. Marketing is actually 80% of it. It's the same tragical situation with musicians and artists, right? Who think, oh, I just have to create an amazing song, right? A banger, so to speak, or an amazing art piece that is exceptional. But if nobody ever sees it, then how is anybody going to buy it, So, and I find
Exactly.
it so amazing how you structure that, because like you said, if there are multiple authors in the book, each of these authors is going to promote this book to their audience, right? So this is like marketing on steroids, so to speak. And this is like really creating an audience very quickly, right? Compared to writing your own book, promoting it to your audience solely, right? Or asking your friends and family to promote it to their friends and family. This is a very slow process of marketing your own book, right? If you don't have an established following, right? Or big following on social media, for example. So for every beginner writer or author, this is a concept that I celebrate, right? Because it helps them build an audience quite quickly while serving their audience in the best possible way by providing kind of different views and perspectives from different experts in that field.
What's nice about it is we build a community within a community. So we have the book. So for each individual book, we have 15, 20 authors. And then what we do is once a month, we bring all the authors from all of our books together, and we have a meet and greet once a month on Zoom where they can all come in and they can connect. It's a networking event, and it's just for our authors. So they come in and they can connect with the other authors within the other books. And we've seen businesses form. We've seen people connect, and hey, we do the same thing, or you do you do vitamins and I do fitness. Let's get together and help each other. So we've seen this happen between the authors within our book. So we tell them connect with the other authors in the book, but then come to these meetings and you connect with the other authors in our other books. So it's been a journey, and it's so fun and exciting to see these writers grow, heal through their writing, and then go out there and do stuff and be successful in it.
I think another advantage of writing with someone else a whole book is that you would have the accountability, because this person might be able to support you in ways that you would not be able to support yourself, especially if you are just starting out or are a beginner writer, right? I hear a lot of people struggle with that, particularly. They know their story, they have the clarity, they are great at writing, but yet the consistency of actually getting those steps done is very hard for them. So I think if you are that type of person who just knows how to brilliantly write, but you struggle with having that type of outlook for yourself, or a friend who could kind of push you all the time, right, to get it done, because you are together in this. And I think this is a very future-driven concept, collaboration. I think with AI rising so fast, this is one of the things that it remains human, the connection,
Yeah.
the collaboration that no AI could take away from us. And I think if any of the female coaches listening to this is smarter beyond her the years, she would look out to not only build a community for her own mission as a brand or a coach in general, but she will look into ways how to actually collaborate with other people, because there is abundance. And if you think in abundant ways, as you mentioned in the beginning, amazing things can happen. Like, you can struggle alone in your business, you can turn your wheels alone for the longest time, for years and years, and you will only achieve so much. But when you actually start collaborating and connecting with like-minded people who are as driven as you are, and start writing books with them together, as you said, new businesses can form. You can find amazing friends. You can find new ways and perspectives how to even do your own business, just by the collaboration and fusion of knowledge and expertise and support and empathy. I find it amazing that you have such a community within the community. What is actually the process that you take a client through within your services? How does that look like? If I were to come to you and say, hey, I want to write a book, but I don't know, I don't want to write my own book, I want to collaborate. How would you take me through that process from beginning to end?
Well, I'll just take, for example, the book. One of the books that we're looking for authors right now is called Unstoppable Female Entrepreneurs.
Love
So,
it.
if you decided you wanted to be part of that, you sign up, you register for it, and then you would meet with me, and we would look at, okay, what do you know what your story is? What story you want to write about? And we would say, okay, you've got 3,000 words. If you need help writing it, sit down and write it. If you need help writing it, reach out to me. I'm here. Otherwise, sit down and write it, and then we give you a form to fill out everything. So you'll need a headshot. We ask for a bio, and then your chapter. We do a dedication page. So there's all things. We put you into a Facebook group with all of the other authors, so that you get to know them. We ask you to connect with all the other authors in the book. You get to know them. We set you up. Once the book is filled, we set a launch date. So we'll say, okay, we're launching July 25th is your launch day. It's a Tuesday. Everyone, we suggest you take the day off from work because it's action packed that day. And we set you up for interviews all day on our platforms and with platforms that we know people who have podcasts. And then all throughout the day, we're in the Facebook group saying, hey, we're at number 5, make sure you reach out to 3 or 4 people and ask them to buy the book today. So you got 30 people, all of them reaching out to 3 or 4 people, asking them to, or more people asking them to buy the book that day. So the book hits on that day that usually we haven't failed yet, has hit number 1 bestseller. So it's action packed. It's fun. It's exciting. We have, then we do a launch party on Zoom afterwards, and we celebrate the book. And it's just a celebration for all the authors. We had tell them, if you want to invite your family and friends to come on, it's just a big celebration to celebrate that you guys became a number 1 bestseller, and for them to even get to know each other a little bit better. We go around the room and we talk about their experience and being part of the book and that. And so, so that's pretty much it. And then once that's done, the book is launched. You get a copy of the book. And then 2 weeks later, we send you a PDF of the book, and we release all the rights back to our authors. So your chapter is yours to have. You can sell it. You can give it away on your website. You can say, hey, read my chapter. Here it is. Or you can download the book for free, or you can sell the PDF on your whatever you want to do. Then we offer discounted author copies. So if you wanted to do a book signing in your neighborhood, you can order a bunch of books, have them there, and do a book signing, and then you keep the difference. So it's there's a lot of different pieces and parts to it, but it's a fun journey. And once people go through it, I like to say, being part of these collaboration books is like opening a bag of potato chips. You can't stop at just one. So, once people do it, they go through this journey with us. They're like, I want to do that again. And so they join another book and another book. And we've had people, people that have been in 4, 5 or more of our books, and that have more now coming up because it's just so much fun.
And this is a beautiful process, because you basically only write your chapter, you deliver those files to you, and you take care of all the rest that sometimes
Right.
or oftentimes is like the biggest drag for an author, just like for any artist, so to speak. We love creating stuff, but we don't know how to actually get it to the people. So you take
Right.
actually care of that. And that's the beauty of it, because you can really focus on what you do best, namely writing about your expertise or about your story. And you take care of the editing, I assume. You take
Yeah.
care of the whole the physical publishing, which is a whole industry on itself, right? You take care of even parts of marketing. You help people how to actually get those steps done. You walk them through it. So it's a beautiful process that explains why people are so excited and raving about it.
Yeah, we
And
do. We create all the marketing materials for you. We'll have your headshot, a quote from your book, and the picture of the book that you can now use as a Facebook post and say, "Hey, I'm in this book. It's coming out, July 25th. Check this out." And so we put that together. We even give you swipe copy. We tell you exactly what to say, and you can use it or not, reword it however you want. And we do all the like you said, we do all the editing. We'll go back. Some people will go back and forth with the editor. We have an editor that we use here, maybe 4 or 5 times to get the chapter exactly the way that they want it. We want the authors to be so excited about their chapter that they want to share it with their family and friends. And so, like I said, we do the book cover design. We do all the formatting of the book. And that's something that, if you're doing your own book and you're self-publishing, there's a huge learning curve, because you need to
oh yeah,
know how to do all that. It's not just going onto Canva. I mean, that's good for an ebook, but to create a physical book and to have this cover design, you need to know what you're doing. So you need to have a book cover designer. You either have to hire them or you have to learn how to do it yourself. Formatting of the book is different for a Kindle than it is for a paperback. You need to have it formatted 2 different times. You have to learn how to format it yourself, or you have to hire someone to do it. So there are like costs to self-publishing that people don't think that, oh, I'm just going to write the book and put it up on Amazon for free, and it's but the editing is crucial to have a book that's edited properly, because people aren't going to buy it, or they'll buy it and they'll give you bad reviews if it's not edited properly, and people aren't going to buy your book, or you get known for having a badly worded and badly edited book. So having your sister edit it, or you saying, oh, I've majored in English, I can edit my own work. No, you don't see it with the same eyes as a professional editor. So hiring a professional editor, we recommend that if you're going to do it on your own, or you come to us, and that's part of our thing, is that we get it professionally edited for you. And like I said, the formatting and all that other stuff is something that, like you said, when writers write their stories or their books, now how do they get it out there? It's that whole process of publishing. And we do have a course that we teach you how to do that if you wanted to learn how and self-publish your book, or you could just hire us and we do it for you.
and where will the book be published specifically?
We upload it and it gets published to all online retailers. So they're available at Barnes and Noble and Walmart.com, Target.com, on Amazon. So we put it out. We use a publishing company that publishes the book out to, I think it's like 20,000 different online retailers. But Amazon is the one that most everybody goes to. And Barnes and Noble. I think a lot of people have their Nook accounts or whatever. So those are the 2 major ones that we make sure that the books are in there.
So if I was a female coach from Australia, for example, would that still be a good deal for me to work with you and to have my book published through all these channels? Or is it the best service for US American authors?
Oh, no, we have authors all over. We have, in fact, we have a couple of someone from Spain. We have a woman from South Africa. We have a couple of them from Australia. We have a bunch of authors from Canada. And so we're international. We're all over. And Amazon is in all those places. So when we publish it to Amazon US, it goes into all those markets. So they're able to, and that's how we become international bestsellers, is by having the authors in those other countries buying the books and having them reach out to their people in their countries to buy the books, and they become bestsellers in those countries.
And just in case any of my listeners don't know this, when you actually submit a book to Amazon, there are two ways how Amazon is going to publish it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but my last update is that they will publish it physically. So a customer could order the book physically in any country of the world, and they will publish it digitally. So the customer will be able to download it to their phone and just read it in Kindle, for example, right?
Correct. Yes. Yep. Yeah. So
Awesome.
there's different ways that you upload your book into Amazon. And once you do it in, like let's say you in Australia, or someone in Australia uploads the book, then it's available in all the other countries.
Yeah. Where can people actually find you? Now, the most important question of it all, where can they find you? Where can they start working with you?
Well, you can go to findsally.com. And there you'll get a copy of the book I read. You can download a free copy of the book I read and read that. And there's all the links there to connect with me. If you want to see the books that we currently have available, you can go to actiontakerspublishing.com/author. actiontakerspublishing.com/author, and you'll see all the books that we're currently looking for writers to participate in. Right now, I think we have 10 of them that we're working on. So yeah, that's we're busy. We have, like I said, we have Unstoppable. We have Finding Your Purpose is another one that we have currently coming up, and a few more. So if you're a coach, if you're you've had an experience that you want to write about, reach out to us. Even if we don't have a book right now, and we get enough people saying, hey, I want to share my story about this, we'll create a book for you. So yeah, we're just looking for ideas and ways to support our community of writers.
I love that so much. And of course, for all my listeners, I will leave all the links, all your social links, all your website links that you just mentioned in the description below, so they will not miss to know how to reach you and how to actually start working with you. Thank you so much, Sally. This has been a very beautiful conversation. I love everything about writing and being an author. So your expertise and your input in this podcast was invaluable. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.